Hello, and welcome to Love Elevated TV. If this is your first time here, I am Arnitris L. Strong, and I am so excited that you are joining this community where we are all about elevating your love life. Today, we're talking about a topic that I believe will elevate the way that you define the success in love. We've all been conditioned to follow a script, right? You meet someone, you fall in love, you get married. How many of you know that it doesn't always work out like that? Especially if you're a driven professional who has been focusing on carving out your career. Maybe you just have not had the time to develop and nurture healthy and fulfilling relationships yet. So, in the last couple of videos, I talked about my relationship with my ex, who was a member of ministry, but his public persona did not match who he was privately. He was a really mean spirited person who would talk to me crazy, who would get upset and say the very thing that he knew that would hurt my feelings. I told a story about how he berated me all the way to church because I wore slacks and the women in his church did not wear slacks. I talked about how we were together and he was on the phone with another young woman and I heard him and we got into this argument and he finally told me that, hey, I love you. You are a wonderful woman. You would be a perfect wife. But if I married you, I wouldn't be happy in my heart because I want to be with a woman who does not have children. And I had children. Well, it would be easy for me to be upset with him and for me to play the victim here. But I'm no victim. I don't believe that any experience in life or in love is ever truly wasted. I walked away from that relationship knowing that one, I could attract the love that I desired, the type of man that I desired, simply because it was the first time that I decided I was going to have a list of things that I desired in a man. Now, granted, the list had a sum total of one thing on it, and that was that he went to church every Sunday. But the fact that I was able to attract someone who went to church every Sunday, even though he wasn't living by the principles, let me know that there was something to making this list and being intentional about the types of things that you desire in a relationship. But when we talk about traditional metrics for success in relationships, one of those things is the length of relationships. I have people in my circle who have been together for 10, 15, 20 years, but I wouldn't necessarily consider those relationships to be success because I have a peek behind the curtains of what's really going on in the relationship. Not everybody is getting what they need out of the relationship. So, what if we decided that we were going to challenge these traditional metrics for what relationship success means? Because normally you meet someone, you fall in love, you get married. And especially for those of us who were raised in the church, who were raised to respect and revere the sanctity of marriage, it is our ultimate goal. It is like crossing the finish line. We just finished watching the Olympics here. It just ended tonight, but so that reference was top of mind. But it's like a medal. It is another accomplishment that we can put on our belts, and especially for women, that is one of the things that we are judged on most. If you scroll on the internet for any amount of time, you will hear conversations about women not being able to keep a man or women are being reduced to their relationship status. But I am here to challenge what success in relationship looks like and how we measure that. So in that individual, if there is not a one size fit all approach to this, it is to be determined by the individuals who are actually in the relationship. I remember going to church with my ex, who was a member of ministry. So many times after church or before church, I would have to hang around a little bit as he prepared for service or as he wrapped up what was going on, tying up loose ends or handling business after church. And so I spent a lot of time with the women of the church, and I recognized and I observed how the young women, and these were young women in their late 20s, early 30s, who were preening in front of these men who were trying to get their attention. And you could tell that they really and truly desired marriage. They didn't, the church, I believe that the church has not given us has not done a really good job of showing us how to position ourselves for relationships, how to attract healthy and fulfilling relationships, how to nurture relationships, how to resolve conflict, how to communicate in a way that is healthy in a relationship. But I witnessed these women preening for the attention of men, and many times all they knew of these men was that they came to church. They didn't spend a lot of time with these men outside of church to really get to know who they were and if who they were really aligned with what they really desired. And I don't know that it was really important. I know for me, again, I created my list. It had a sum total of one thing, and that was that he was in church every Sunday. I attracted a man, he was in church every Sunday, but he was a horrible person. So I want to challenge number one, the idea that marriage is the ultimate goal. Marriage is an indicator of success. If you think about the closest three people in your circle, or the closest, or five people in your circle, or people that you know who are married, or even if you think about people who are at your job, they may not necessarily be your friends, people that you work with who are married, and you overhear conversations and things like that about what is going on in their relationships. A lot of people are married and they're unhappy. And so, one of the goals of this channel is to create more healthy and fulfilling relationships that look the way that you want them to look, whether that is in marriage, whether that is in a long term committed relationship, whether that is a casual relationship. You get to define what success and love looks like. So, we want to challenge the notion that marriage is the key indicator for success in a relationship. Because for you, success in a relationship may be a committed relationship that doesn't lead to legal marriage. Another thing that I really, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, an indicator of success in relationships by traditional standards, again, is time. How many people do we know, or if let's just talk about celebrities that we know that were married for years and years and years? On the outside looking in, one would think that they have a successful, healthy relationship, but all of a sudden, when the kids are grown, they're getting divorced. It's an indication that it wasn't a healthy and fulfilling relationship. And I believe that when we make the best decision for us, it is healthy for everyone. One of the relationships that really comes to mind for me is Blair Underwood and his wife. I don't know if she was his first wife or not, but they were together for a number of years. They had children together. And they got divorced a couple of years ago, and he ended up marrying a woman who was his friend. She had been his friend for years. It makes me wonder if his ex-wife ever questioned him about the nature of that relationship. I'm not saying that anything happened before he was divorced, but what I'm suggesting is that the timing is a little bit sketchy, because they got married not long after the divorce was final. Maybe they waited, maybe they had been friends all this time and they didn't know that they had feelings for each other until after the relationship was over. I find that kind of hard to believe. But anyway, the idea or the fact that him and his wife were together for all of those years, and then I don't remember exactly how many years, and I don't want to misinterpret or misquote how many years it was, but they were in together for a number of years. By any stretch of the imagination, one would assume it was a successful relationship. I used to do a series on my blog during Valentine's Day, all about Black love, and I would highlight celebrities, high-profile people, Black people who had been married for a number of years. And Blair Underwood and his wife was a couple that I highlighted several times in that series. So, the first thing that we want to challenge is the notion that marriage is an indicator of success. And I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that everyone who is married is not happy. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I am suggesting is that marriage does not have to be an indicator of success. You get to choose what success and love looks like for you. The second metric that I am challenging is time. You don't have to be in a relationship where your desires are not being honored because of some strange sense of loyalty, because you've been together for 10, 15, and 20 years. My first marriage, I was determined that I was not going to raise my child in an environment where his parents were unhappy. And that the first sign of my ex-husband just being completely disrespectful and not having a desire to either work on it or fix it, I was out. I just did not have a desire to be in a relationship where I was not going to be treated the way that I deserve to be treated. So we want to think about how we're going to determine what success in love looks like. And so it does not have to be marriage. It does not have to be spent. It does not have to be any of these things traditionally that we would focus on or we would use as an indicator of what successful relationships look like. So a couple of the pros. So I talked about some of the traditional metrics. So we talked about marriage. We talked about time spent. Let's talk about some of the pros of using those indicators for measuring success and love. So one of the pros of using marriage, for example, as an indicator of success and love is that it's clear. One can look and see a wedding ring. One can look up a marriage certificate. One can attend a wedding. It is clear. There is no ambiguity at all about a marriage. One knows what marriage is. It's clear. It's concise. You understand what a marriage means. Another pro to using marriage or time spent together as a metric is that it's universally acknowledged. Everyone, well, most people know what marriage is. Most people respect the sanctity of marriage. Another pro, and I think that this could be a con as well, is that it's a one size fit all solution. You married. Okay, it fits into that timeline. You meet someone, fall in love, you get married. Like when you meet someone when you're in college and you bring them home for dinner, or you brought them home for the holidays several years in a row, you've gotten your degree. One of the next questions is, when are you going to get married, right? So it is a one size fit all solution. But what if we would explore just a little bit further that those metrics may not fully capture what it means to be in a committed relationship? I know a couple that have been together for several decades and they aren't married. They're not legally married, I guess. I don't know. I guess common law marriage is still a thing, but they're not legally married. But for all intents and purposes, they are in a marriage. They live together, they commingle their finances, they have created this life together, they go on vacation together, they make decisions together. For all intents and purposes, barring a marriage license and a wedding ring and a ceremony, they're married, right? So they have made a decision together that marriage was not going to be an indicator of success for their life. They created the type of relationship that is successful in their eyes, and it doesn't matter what other people say. And I admire people who are able to have the courage of their convictions to live their lives on their own terms. Another pro to using traditional means of metrics for measuring success in love and relationships is social validation. How many scroll on your Facebook timeline for any amount of time and you're going to see lamentations about people who are complaining about the lack of love in their lives. You're going to see I said yes to the dress. You're going to see wedding photos. You're going to see videos and posts about anniversaries. You have social validation. And no one is going to deny that traditional goals like marriage come with acceptance. And that acceptance also comes with a boost of your social status. It comes with a boost to your self-esteem. So that's a pro to measuring love in terms of traditional metrics. Another pro for measuring in love by traditional metrics, i.e., marriage and long-term commitment, is that there is a structured framework. So I've said it several times. You meet someone, you fall in love, you get married. There is a process, right? So a structured framework for relationship progression, or the things that we can expect in a relationship, can help people to navigate their dating lives. You have a goal and a direction, and they're making sure that you have that goal, and every step that you're taking is taking you closer to that goal and not farther away from it. So, the pros of measuring love by traditional metrics are that there are clear milestones, there are social validation, and there is a structured framework. But some of the cons of, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, some of the cons of using marriage and long term commitment as metrics for measuring success and love is that one size fit all approach. So if marriage and long term commitment means success, then lack of marriage or long term commitment would mean failure. And we see that a lot in interactions online. Again, when I talked about how women are reduced to our relationship status or not being able to keep a man, that's that pressure. Big mama is asking you, auntie's asking you, mama's asking you because she wants you to wear her dress, and she wants that social status and acceptance that comes along with being the mother of the bride. And that pressure and those expectations can be really uncomfortable. The holidays are a really uncomfortable time for so many single people because they are tired of being pressured about when they are going to get married. And so when we rely on these metrics, it can create undue pressure to conform to social norms that we may not even subscribe to. It can lead to stress, it can lead to dissatisfaction, it can lead to fractures in relationships, because I don't know about you, but if you ask me the same question over and over every year, that first time you ask me, I may just say, I don't know, calmly answering you. That second time, I may have already thought of a witty response. That third or fourth time, I'm probably not going to be as nice answering that question. No one wants to be pressured into making a decision that is so important. Another con of using those traditional metrics is that it can make us to neglect reality. The reality is that many people are struggling in relationships, many people are struggling in dating. And so I want Love Elevated TV to be the answer to people who are looking for ways to navigate relationships and dating on their own terms. I want Love Elevated TV to be the answer for people who were not given relationship education. That's why Love Elevated TV is relationship education for the modern single professional. Because if you're anything like me, you were told that your books were your boyfriend and you were not given instruction. And maybe you didn't even have examples of what healthy and fulfilling relationships look like. And so we don't want to neglect the modern realities that there are disparities in relationships, there are issues, there is almost a war of the sexes that is going on, and people are really hurting and they're really looking for answers about how to attract healthy and fulfilling relationships. And having this undue pressure about when you're going to get married or using marriage and long-term commitment as an indicator of success is not helping. But the channel, Love Elevated TV, it's because you're probably a Christian man or woman who was raised to understand and respect the sovereignty of marriage. And one of the easiest indicators for romantic relationship success by traditional standards is marriage, right? You get married. Thank you for joining us as we explored the contrast between what we sometimes expect and the reality of what success in love should look like. It's clear that redefining success in love involves more than just hitting traditional milestones. It's about understanding and embracing what truly makes a relationship meaningful and fulfilling. If you're ready to take your love life to the next level and align your relationship with your deepest values and goals, I invite you to join my masterclass, Your Elevated Love, Designing a Relationship Brand That Attracts. In this elevating session, we'll talk about how to create an elevated love brand that resonates with who you are and attracts the love you truly desire. Don't miss this opportunity to craft a relationship narrative that's authentically yours and set yourself up for lasting success in love. Click the links below to learn more and reserve your spot.